What's going on, everyone? Coach Gino here, back with another episode for the 10P DC podcast. Back with Mark. Mark, give him a shout.
Yo, what's up, everyone?
Today is June 4th. It's a Sunday, a nice and sunny day. The weather's getting really nice out here in Daly City and South City area. Go ahead and enjoy the time out there during the summer. But don't forget your training, everyone. I know everyone's graduating. Everyone's going on summer vacations. Everyone's traveling. And, all the best to you guys doing that. But don't forget your training when you're out there. Make sure you guys are trying to stay in shape as best you can. And I get it. There's family functions. There's times you're hanging out with the friends. You're on break and you want to live it up. Go ahead and do your thing, but make sure you guys balance that out with some training. Make sure you guys stay hyper conscious of your routines. Make sure you guys don't lose track of that too far. We got some competitions coming up for some of you guys. June 17th, we're looking at Jiu-Jitsu World League over in Stockton and the PKB, Point Kickboxing match in San Francisco. So that day, we're probably going to close the gym. It's going to be a Saturday because we got a lot of competitors going out. I'm going to be over at the PKB in San Francisco. We should have plenty of coaches out in Stockton for the Jiu-Jitsu World League tournament, and we should have a good day of competitions for everyone. All the best to all of you who are competing out there and representing the team. In these next couple of weeks while we're preparing, make sure you guys are asking questions. Make sure you guys are in the gym. Make sure you guys are focused on your competitions, making sure you guys are covering all your bases, everything you need to do for the competition. So again, reach out to me or any of the coaches if you guys need to drill anything, if you guys have questions about anything. Very important you guys use this time. It's 2 weeks out from these events. These are the times to mentally prep, to make sure you're working hard in the gym, still building up that confidence, building up your strategy, making sure that you guys are ready to go by competition day. Make sure your weight is on point. So again, there's a lot of folks out there who are, in the summertime. They tend to pick up their training toward the middle of the summer, and we start to see a big influx of people in the gym. So again, be ready to come into the gym and make sure you guys are ready to work, ready to get at it. There's a lot of folks out there who are traveling, again, visiting from other spots. We should have a good summertime. And summer's really been picking up. This whole year has actually been really good. We're halfway through the year. It's been great. The pandemic is pretty much over by now, and everything's been just like full-fledged. I think we're even better than we were pre-pandemic days. So I'm really happy to see that. Again, we got some news coming for the gym with expansions, with more classes, so stay tuned for that. And, coming up with that new content we were mentioning a few weeks before, talking about the introduction lessons or introduction videos for those who are coming in new to the gym. So stay tuned for that. Mark is going to be helping out with some more videos pretty soon, so it's going to be a good time. Mark is going to be working with me to create some more stuff for all of our viewers and all of our students so that you guys can get more content to better your training and all that stuff. So we had some fights this past weekend. I know Kai Kara France was the main event yesterday. I forget the guy's name. Mark, do you remember his name?
Albazi.
Albazi wins by decision. Also, Alex Caceres wins against who did Caceres wins against? Alex Caceres, Bruce Leroy, one of my favorite fighters in the featherweight division. Looks like he's going to be knocking on a title contender fight pretty soon. What was the name of his opponent again?
Daniel Pineda.
Pineda. Yeah, Pineda is good too. So those two get the dubs. I didn't watch them too close, but just want to give everyone the shout out for their victories. And we got another, I think 4 months of constant UFC fights every weekend. I mean, we have a good bunch of fights coming up, so we'll talk about those as we go forward into the summer. But yeah, a lot of fights coming up in the UFC. In boxing news, I'm excited to see Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence finally get their matchup. We'll talk about that as well when the fights get closer. Nate Diaz and Jake Paul's coming around the corner too, and they're getting ready. So a lot of buzz, a lot of stir. Francis Ngannou signs with the PFL, and John Jones is still talking to smack to him about that. So again, all these news and updates, we'll cover those once we get to them, and make sure you guys are up to date with all the other news that we have going on in the gym. So today's topic, I wanted to kind of bring it to MMA. Now, we've been talking about MMA a long time, and our team has a good experience with working with MMA fighters and people who come from different backgrounds. And today I wanted to talk about transitioning to MMA from specific disciplines, because there's a lot of guys out there who are purists, right? We have wrestlers, we have boxers, Muay Thai fighters, and we have BJJ athletes. And we got all these guys who want to transition to MMA some point in their future, whether it be through competition or just training MMA and learning how to mix it up with your martial arts. So today, I want to talk about each way we can go about transitioning into these martial arts. Now, there's no right or wrong way to do this. There's always going to be people who want to go into MMA, but they're just hesitant because maybe they don't want to get hit. Maybe they don't want to go to the ground. Maybe they don't want to grapple. Maybe they don't want to strike, whatever the reason may be. But at the end of the day, mixed martial arts, in my opinion, is the ultimate way for you to test your open hand self-defense. Like take away weapons, take away any firearms, take away anything else, like group attacks, mano y mano, 1 versus 1. Who's going to come out on top? MMA is the best asset you can have in a one-on-one altercation. We've talked about jiu-jitsu, how the jiu-jitsu basis is for ultimate self-defense, but as you have seen in the UFC and just in general, as the sport has evolved, jiu-jitsu needs to be combined with something else. Jiu-jitsu needs an element of striking. Jiu-jitsu needs an element of wrestling, and you need to have a good balance of those skills. And same thing with boxing, right? Boxing, Muay Thai. If you hit the guy once and you knock him out, great. But it's not very often you find a guy just getting dropped with one shot. If they're not accurate, if they're not powerful enough, it's not going to happen. So you got to be ready for the element of grappling. If it gets to a clinch, if it gets to the ground, if it gets to a point when you're on top or you're on bottom, you got to be able to do that. Wrestling as well. Wrestling, you grab a guy and you throw him. If you don't knock him out with like slamming his head on the ground, you're going to have to find a way to continue to fight. So again, all of these martial arts come with specific attributes and specific weaknesses that you got to address if you're ever going to go into MMA. And again, not necessarily even just for competition. It's for the concept of being a mixed martial artist, being able to mix it up, being able to do all of these disciplines and be able to transition between them, because it's very difficult for you to break some habits sometimes in these martial arts and to remember that, hey, those rules that you applied in that sport don't necessarily apply to a full-fledged fight or a full MMA bout. So let's start it off with my background and what I started with, right? So take away wrestling, boxing, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai. I started from a karate background, and I started from karate when I was a young age. Eventually got into Muay Thai later. So I was basically a striker when I first started into, mixing up martial arts. As I grew and I started learning and experiencing grappling, learning about wrestling, learning about judo, learning about jiu-jitsu, I realized that I had a lot of work to do on my grappling and learning about the aspects of the ground. So that was my journey, right? And as I started to learn how to train in both, the challenge was trying to balance staying good as a striker and still being able to learn as a grappler. And that's the struggle for a lot of people, because you don't want your skill set to just go to the wayside. You don't want your skills that you're already polished with to just, deteriorate. So what you need to do, again, is take some time and focus on a specific area that you need to focus on and balance it, where the majority of your time is worked on those holes in your game, but you still have a little time working on polishing your game. So how I would structure it, like for example, if you're a Muay Thai fighter and you're looking to do MMA, right? Oop, ignore that, please. So we have a balance of trying to get to mixed martial arts style, right? And Muay Thai obviously is known as a stand-up martial art. It's got some clinch in the standing game. It's got very good striking, obviously, but once it gets to the ground, it's pretty much all Muay Thai is out of the picture, with the exception of maybe some strikes on the ground. So what I did when I was working on jiu-jitsu, trying to focus on my jiu-jitsu, I would train my Muay Thai once or twice a week. And like the other 5 days would be focused on jiu-jitsu. And this was what I did for about 3 years. Mind you, I had been training Muay Thai for about 5 years before that. So 5 years of Muay Thai. And it was kind of like the flip side. I was started with Muay Thai when I was 16. From 16 until 19, I was pretty much doing Muay Thai all the time. And then it was until I was 19 when I met Eddie Bravo that I was introduced to Jiu-Jitsu. And then at that point, I really fell in love with Jiu-Jitsu. And that at that point, it was kind of 50-50. I was doing Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu same day, like balanced 50-50. But when I made the decision that I wanted to get my jiu-jitsu better, I had to decide that I need to take some time away from Muay Thai because I had a lot of years in Muay Thai and I had to up my jiu-jitsu game. So again, I would do Muay Thai after my practice. I would shadow box, I would hit the bag a little bit, but I would still take the bigger emphasis on the jiu-jitsu. I would be there in the jiu-jitsu classes. I'd be out there rolling. I'd be out there drilling. I'd do my 1 to 2 hour jiu-jitsu session 3-4 times a week, maybe 5 times a week, depending if I was competing or not. And then I do once or twice just to polish up my Muay Thai, make sure I was still sharp with my hands, with my kicks, and my balance. So that's the format I would go with. Now, when we talk about going from Muay Thai to MMA, again, the biggest hole there is working off the ground, working off the grappling and working off of trying to get to a competent level on the ground. The good thing with Muay Thai and transitioning to MMA is, for one, obviously the striking, but two, the flexibility, right? If you're going from Muay Thai to Jiu-Jitsu, the flexibility that is required in Jiu-Jitsu can really be applicable. Working the high kicks, working the teeps, working all those requirements for your hip dexterity in Muay Thai to Jiu-Jitsu. So that's a plus. The boxing side of Muay Thai, obviously there is boxing practice in Muay Thai, but there is that element of the different stance that you have to be considerate of. And with wrestling, with Muay Thai, the big issue with Muay Thai when you talk about learning how to wrestle is working those low kicks, being able to catch kicks and take a guy down. Muay Thai, we throw kicks all the time. You can catch a kick and you can sweep the other person. But when you bring it to a wrestler, if they catch that kick, they're going to run that kick down and they're going to take you down and they're going to end up on top of you. So the elements of Muay Thai, coming from a Muay Thai background, I would focus on is trying to work a little different stance. The Muay Thai stance is very upright and it's very light on your legs, and you're not looking for any kind of level changes as much and trying to shoot, right? You're going to have to work on your ground aspect, obviously, and you're going to have to understand how to throw your kicks differently so they don't get caught by a wrestler or they don't get caught and you don't get tripped up, because the rules in Muay Thai don't even allow for inside sweeps or hooking the legs, which you would be able to do in MMA easily. So that's something for Muay Thai fighters I would say focus on that aspect. Let's talk about now going from a jiu-jitsu aspect straight to MMA. Now, jiu-jitsu folks, Mark, you have some experience working with jiu-jitsu, and I think your basis was jiu-jitsu, correct? More so, and then you still have tried some MMA. I know you've had questions about that. What do you find your biggest dilemma is when you're going from jiu-jitsu into MMA training?
I think for me, it's the getting hit part. When I'm sparring with Logan, he's always like, closing your eyes. And it's just like a natural, it's like a natural reaction that I need to do more stand up in order to break.
Right.
I think that it's just like a bit more of a shock.
Mm-hmm. This is the grappler's kryptonite, right? In transition to MMA, learning not only how to strike, but how to take a strike, how to learn how to take a hit. And this is a very difficult concept to grasp because the only way you can learn it is by getting hit. And this isn't something where I'm saying to put your hands down and just take the kick to the head or anything like that. No, you want to do this in a smart way. Training striking is something that a lot of grapplers are intimidated by because they think, I just don't like getting hit. And I don't like getting hit. And no one likes to get hit. No one wants to get hit. There's some people who are okay with getting hit and they're comfortable getting hit, but no one wants to get hit. And what striking does not only teaches you how to strike, but how to dodge hits, how to avoid hits, how to protect yourself from those hits. But the only way to really fully capitalize on learning how to do so is by getting hits thrown at you or getting strikes thrown at you. It's just like swimming, right? If you could jump into the pool for the first time. Everyone has had that experience, almost drowning, almost like, oh, getting the water in their lungs, swallowing the water, and they never want that to happen again. So what do? They learn how to swim correctly. They learn how to tread water. They learn how to relax in the water. It's the same kind of idea. Now, there is detrimental, there is some detrimental occasions where you may get hit hard and you may get hurt and everything and all that stuff. But again, it's going to be determined by the quality of your training. And now the quality of training sometimes may be difficult for some people. And just like in any other aspect, you want to have good quality training. You want to have training that is smart, that is really applied with reasoning, with logic, and with a coach who's experienced with that aspect of training. So if you're going to a gym and you see these guys just slobber knocking and they're getting bloody nose every sessions, they're getting concussions, they're doing all these things, that's probably not a gym I would recommend to anyone. If you find a gym where guys are just like getting hurt in the training room frequently and often, I would stay away. Now, you can also, just train with, find a private trainer. You get, they'll hold some pads for you. They'll show you the strikes and everything. But again, what we're looking at first is the quality of training. No matter if it's a private or if it's a group instruction, you want to have good quality training and you want to be able to incrementally develop your comfortability with striking, with getting hit, and that comes with time. It comes with time, hours and hours of the gym, hours and hours of practice, hours and hours of you just learning, studying tape, being able to recognize when you're in danger and recognize when you're able to capitalize on opportunity. Those are all things that come with time. Now, that's not an easy feat. Again, this is why I talk about the balance of your training. When you're splitting your training 50-50 with whatever you're doing great and whatever your weakness is never going to be able to get up to that level and kind of be almost compatible with your strengths. I feel like I'm at a point with my grappling that it is almost like competitively there with my striking, and my striking is only up to that level only because of the time I've had with striking. I was able to start so young with striking and understand it to a degree that my instincts are just there with the striking, and my grappling is there too. And I feel like even with another 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of, working my grappling, eventually it's just going to be like 50-50. But you never know really where, these percentages I'm giving you guys are all subjective. They're not really like, you're never going to be able to calculate how good one discipline is to another. But what you can do is aim for those percentages and aim for those goals to have a good balanced system where you have confidence in your grappling, confidence in your striking. Now, let's go into the other two disciplines I mentioned, wrestling, right? Wrestling and boxing. So let's start off with going from a boxing standpoint. Now, boxing, when you come from a boxing standpoint, again, there's plenty of boxers who've been very successful in MMA. We talk about Holly Holm, right? We talk about, guys who like BJ Penn. BJ Penn, obviously a jiu-jitsu guy, but had really good boxing. We've had, Clarissa Shields is out there trying to do her thing with the boxing. And what other guys? I think Francis Ngannou. Again, Francis Ngannou was started off as a boxer, training as a boxer, and went to MMA. Now, boxers have this, inherent ability to, be tough, be durable, and take strikes, obviously. But when it comes to the kicks, when it comes to the grappling, when it comes to the wrestling, it's very, very difficult for them to catch up. So boxers are going to need a lot of time working their grappling. That's where I would focus on. The kicks in MMA, you just need to know, mainly what you need to know is how to defend the kicks. You need to know how to check kicks. You know how to be able to recognize the kicks. You should throw some kicks. There's never like a point where you shouldn't throw any kicks, but some kicks are going to be more difficult than others. Obviously, a high kick is going to be more difficult than a low kick. The flexibility that requires to get their leg up there is going to be a lot more challenging, right? Throwing push kicks and knees, they're a little easier, again, better than the round kicks. You don't need to be throwing spinning kicks or hook kicks or question mark kicks. You just need to make sure you're working for your hands, right? Using your kicks to set up those hands, because if you've been boxing many years, your hands are probably going to be your biggest attribute. So learning how to develop your game to defend the takedown, to defend the kicks, and to defend, the grappling on the ground, and learn to stay upright with your hands. Justin Gaethje, obviously great hands, has a wrestling pedigree. He keeps the fight with the stand-up because he likes to stand up, but he has the wrestling ability and knows how to defend from, getting hurt with that, any situation. He does the hurting. He's the one who's putting the pressure on. So, boxers, when you think about boxers and guys who have had success in the MMA world, again, they are in the same boat where you have to balance out your training and be able to fully immerse yourself into mixed martial arts. So the boxing side of things, it's going to be really difficult. I mean, Clarissa Shields is doing it to a certain degree to bounce back from boxing to MMA, because boxing, you get a good payday if you're a professional. You go to MMA, the payday is not as significant. Again, depending on what your skill set is and what level you're at, but it's gonna require time to just set aside from those boxing matches and that rule set, because boxing, think about it, 12-round fights, 3-minute rounds. If you are at the pro level, championship level, those are very drastically different than 5-minute rounds in MMA and 5-minute rounds in MMA, and also with the dynamic of the rules being so significantly different. A fight is a fight at the end of the day, but again, fights are always going to have elements that are going to throw you off. They're not going to be always the same rule set. They're not going to be against the same opponents and the same style. So you got to be able to adjust those skills and make sure that you figure out what's going to work for you. Like in the boxing stance, also another thing that you have to worry about in a boxing stance is getting chopped with those leg kicks. Again, like I said, defending the learning how to change your stance, check kicks, learning how to recognize those kicks and then catch them and maybe throw your hands back at them. So these are all points to consider if you're a boxer considering to go to MMA. Now, wrestlers have the most significant advantage in MMA, I feel, as far as the sport. Not because of their finishing ability, not because of their ability to strike, not because of their ability to even grab and be able to, again, hurt guys. It's the mindset, the wrestling mindset, the way wrestling is structured, especially American wrestling. American wrestlers start young. They start real young. They start cutting weight early. They start learning how to grind. There's no tapping in wrestling, right? There's no give up in wrestling. There's no easy pace in wrestling. Wrestling, they do a high pace, action-packed matches. They're going in there grinding, they're competing regularly, and they're going hard in these practice sessions and getting hard reps and drills. Wrestling, more important than anything, it teaches you that work ethic that you need to develop skills. Jiu-jitsu, we don't have that same culture in, bringing the schools in and having the support from the obviously how long wrestling has been around and the support it's had, obviously with the Olympics, obviously with the the club wrestling that you see. Jiu-jitsu doesn't have that support. Boxing doesn't have that support. Boxing does have golden gloves in the amateurs, but again, it's not taught in the schools anymore. Muay Thai is completely out of the question when you talk about doing Muay Thai in schools and with the youth. I mean, there is some, obviously schools like us have PKBs and they have opportunities for kids to compete, but again, it's just not to the level where it's supported like wrestling is. And again, wrestling is inherent with mixed martial arts these days. Wrestling controls where the fight is going to be. If you don't like the striking exchange, you can take him down. If you do like the striking exchange, you're able to avoid the takedown because you've been wrestling so long, you know how to keep the fight where you need to go. And wrestling, that's what it's all about. Wrestling is about control. Wrestling is about being able to dictate the pace, being able to dictate the positions, being able to dictate where you need to be in the fight. And that's why wrestlers have such a significant advantage in MMA. Now, one thing you have to consider, again, is wrestling doesn't teach you as well how to finish these fights. That's why you need those Muay Thai elements. That's why you need that Jiu-Jitsu elements to know how to finish a fight. Because again, you can win fights all day long by decision and just control guys. But until you learn the Jiu-Jitsu aspect, the Muay Thai, the boxing, how to knock a guy out, how to submit a guy, you're never gonna finish guys. So there's a requirement. If you're a wrestler and you want to learn how to finish fights, you're going to have to go into the jiu-jitsu practice room. You're going to have to go into to Muay Thai sparring and boxing sparring so that you can finish guys, because everyone loves a finisher in this sport. Everyone loves a guy who can take a guy out completely, and it makes for easier work and quicker work. You have a bunch of 3-round fights or 5-round fights and they just rack up. You can't be doing those as frequently. You can have a quick turnaround if you finish guys in the first round within the first 30 seconds. You can fight again next week or next month real quick. But if you go through a 3-round war every time you're in there, your ability in MMA to continue to compete is going to be difficult. Now, again, we don't have to think about that competition aspect. But again, if you're thinking about going from wrestling to MMA, learning MMA, the reason you would want to go and do that is because you do want to learn how to get these finishes. You want to learn how to be able, like in a situation where you're in a street fight, you want to be able to learn to take a guy out, submit a guy. You know, you don't want to just hold the guy the whole time. I mean, obviously there's a chance where you can pick a guy up and slam him on his head, right? But what if he's like 100, 200 pounds heavier than you? And that's something where it's out of the question. So giving yourself that straight, brutal honesty when you think about your skill set as a wrestler, where do you know how to finish a guy, right? Can you choke a guy out? Can you armbar him? Can you throw a leg lock on him? Can you knock him out? Can you head kick him? Can you do all these things? Maybe not. If you've been training wrestling purely as a wrestling for many years, that's going to be difficult. But you know that nowadays it is a point when they talk about transitioning from MMA, from any of these disciplines to MMA. The big factor that we all have to consider is the youth in this, right? The youth now are learning all these things at the same time, and the youth to one point, well, you know, once these old dogs get up and then, you know, they get up there in age, and you know, you have these young bucks coming up, they're brash, they're young, and they have these skill sets. You know, you want to be able to have that confidence that you can still hang. Again, not to compete with them, but you know, if these young bucks come up and try to test you on the street and try to mess with you, you know, these knuckleheads, you want to be able to hold your own. You want to be able to be ready for these guys that are coming in with this arrogance, because what we do have at the end of the day is the experience, right? When you talk about age and experience, the youth have that ability to absorb everything easily, and they're just in there and they're working everything from the bat. You see these kids now in MMA, in the UFC. Look at Chase Hopper. Who else is there? Raul Rosas. All these guys are learning everything quick. They're learning everything really like seamlessly together, and that's how the evolution of mixed martial arts is going to be, and martial arts in general. At one point in our lives, I hope in our lives, we're going to see like majority of our youth just great everywhere, great with grappling, great with striking, great with, you know, understanding submissions, and that's the goal for any martial artist. I feel you should be wanting to be good everywhere. Why would you want to be one-dimensional? Why would you want to just learn one discipline? What's the point of being able to just defend yourself in one area when it comes to a one-on-one altercation? You should have confidence to that you can defend yourself anywhere. If you trip on the ground, if you're on top of him, if you enter in some scramble, you should have the confidence that you can fight anywhere when you need to. So again, a lot of other factors we can go in with fighting in general. But again, I'm talking about a one-on-one altercation where you're trying to defend yourself against some dude who's trying to fight you. And this is the bare bones minimum we need. We need to have a good understanding of, again, not every aspect of MMA do you need to be a master of, but you need to know what you're good at, what you can do, where your weaknesses are, and be able to keep the fight or dictate the fight and the pace, control, and the distance of the fight, so you can be the one at the advantage at all times. So there's a lot of things to consider there, right? Don't get overwhelmed with all those factors. Start where you can. Find a good gym where you feel like, yeah, I have a weakness here. I need to learn and pick up some of these things. You know, again, it could be a wrestling class. It could be a jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing. It could be a judo class, depending on what you're needing to do for your style. And learn as, you know, keep that learner attitude the whole time. That's what I really suggest with you guys. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't think that you need to be a John Jones or you need to be a Charles Oliveira, all these guys who are at the top level. This is guys that we don't need to compare against ourselves against. We need to make sure we're just looking at ourselves and really being true and honest with our assessment of ourselves. If you don't do that, then you're going to be in a false sense of security. You're going to think that, you know, these will never happen to me. And you know, you see it all the time. You see guys get exposed in areas where they're weak and they don't know what to do. It's always going to be better to go into your training with a sense of humility, a sense of I need to work on this because I'm not good at it. And, you know, working with that attitude keeps it fresh, keeps you hungry in the gym, and makes you want to learn more and more and more. So a lot of things I know I threw at you guys today, so things to consider. Mark, you have any thoughts on that stuff that we were mentioning?
I just, as a grappler that tried striking a little bit, I think it was super important for me to have really good training partners like Logan and Bryson that are
very good point.
Yeah, that don't just go crazy, you know, and they're also trying to help me get better. So,
very good point.
I just really appreciate having good good training partners, because I think if it was the opposite, I probably wouldn't do striking anymore.
Oh yeah, I've had plenty of guys come to the gym and say I stopped sparring because I did a sparring session and I got hurt. And then that I hate to hear that. I hate to hear guys when they do sparring sessions or do training sessions and they get hurt. It's like my goal for our gym at 10th Line Daly City is to have a welcoming environment and guys feel safe where they can train and still learn. There's no reason for you to be unnecessarily aggressive against your training partners unless they're asking for it, unless they're being brash and rude and arrogant and you need to teach them a lesson. But even then, there's a line that you have to be able to draw, whether you're teaching them and whether you're just trying to get your rocks off and you're just trying to have a good time and then just embarrass the dude, right? You got to have good training partners. You got to really understand that not everyone trains the same way. Even if you do run into a bad training environment, remember that, not everyone is like that. I'm here to tell you guys that you guys come to our gym. You guys come and learn. We're not going to treat you that way. We're going to make sure you're taken care of. We're going to make sure that you guys don't get hurt as best we can. There's always room for accidents that may happen. But again, when you're smart, when you have good training partners, when you have a good team around you, and it's bred in the culture of the gym to make sure everyone is safe, we mitigate those injuries and those situations a lot. So find a good place to train, find people you trust. And again, the energy, you should feel the energy when you walk in that gym. It's intimidating at times, but once you jump on the mats, once you start talking to the coach, talking to the team, talking to the folks who have been there for years, you should be able to feel at least some form of comfortability, of some form of safety, and a reasonable amount of intensity that you're training with. Because if you don't have that, you may be in the wrong place. This may not be the spot for you. Gyms that have this culture of, we're fighter gyms and we're going to come in, we're going to train hard. We're going to just train hard because we fight hard. There is a place for that for guys who are looking to compete. If you're trying to be in MMA, if you're trying to go and fight in the UFC, but even then there's only so far you can go with those gyms before someone's getting hurt in the training room and it's a bad culture that you're having. So find a good spot. Again, look up look for the signs that this is the right place for you, because all you guys may not be accessible to come out to Daly City. So look for these signs at a gym. Find a place again that you feel comfortable in, that is reasonable, that is working with you, and they're not knuckleheads. That's the biggest thing I got to tell you guys, because there's so many gyms out there that are going to say all these things and going to do all these things that those newcomers that are coming in, they're just getting brainwashed right off the bat, thinking that that's the way it is. But there's a whole wide spectrum of different gyms and different places out there that'll take care of you and still teach you how to get the skills that you need and be effective with it. So again, guys, let us know if you have any questions about that. Happy for, again, all you guys who've been coming out and training and mixing it up. Our gym has all the resources for you guys to get this training in, and we're going to make sure you guys continue to get that training if you want it. And if you want to talk more about it, let us know. We'll make sure we guide you as best we can to the right place. So that's all for today, guys. Appreciate it again. Mark, any last words before we close out?
Thanks for listening. Really appreciate it.
All right, guys, stay tuned for more content. We'll see you guys soon. Train hard, stay consistent.